writers. I'm freelance fiction editor Miranda with my weekly video about writing, editing, and the writing life. It's a new month, so we're tackling a new genre. And this month, it's space opera. It's the genre of big worlds, bigger feelings, and how authors can keep it from floating away. Let's talk about space opera. Not hard sci-fi engineering manual, not quiet space vibes, not we're in space but it's actually a small domestic drama with spaceship wallpaper. I mean space opera, the subgenre that hands you empires, rebellions, alien diplomacy, morally gray captains, ancient tech, and the audacity to say, what if a decision changed the fate of an entire civilization? And then expects you to make that decision emotionally convincing. If you're writing in this space, pun intended, here's what readers expect and how to deliver it with craft precision instead of cosmic chaos. What makes it space opera? At its core, space opera combines galactic scale stakes, interstellar settings, political or military conflict, advanced, often soft, technology, it doesn't have to be hard, deeply personal emotional arcs, and it's spectacle with heart. Right. One of the key mistakes I see writers make in space opera is leaning so hard into the spectacle that the heart floats off into the vacuum. So let's fix that. First, let's start with personal stakes, then scale up. Space opera isn't about empires falling, it's about how your protagonist feels about this empire falling. For example, take a memory called Empire. On paper, it's a classic space opera. Massive imperial capital, political intrigue, cultural tension, high-stakes diplomacy, but the engine of the novel isn't the empire, it's identity. Mahit isn't navigating court politics, she's wrestling with cultural assimilation, belonging, and what it means to represent her home in a place that simultaneously dazzles and erases her. There's a craft lesson in here. When writing space opera, define your protagonist's emotional vulnerability before you define your galactic map. Ask, what insecurity follows them into space? What wound makes political conflict personal for your main character? What belief will the galaxy test? If you can't answer these, your star system won't save you. Tip number 2, build political conflict that mirrors character conflict. Space opera thrives on empires, rebellions, shifting alliances, and diplomatic chess matches. But the politics should echo the protagonist's internal arc. In Andor, the rebellion isn't just background noise. The series grounds galactic resistance and individual radicalization. Cassian's journey from self-preservation to ideological commitment mirrors the widening political stakes. Craft tip. If you're writing galactic war, identify what does your protagonist believe at the start? What would make them change? What personal cost will that shift demand? Space opera is most powerful when the macro and micro arcs move together. Third tip. Let culture be more than just set dressing. World building in space opera isn't about how many moons a planet has. It's about ritual, language, hierarchy, power, social friction. In The Final Strife, which is technically science fantasy, the layered societal divisions and power hierarchies function exactly the way strong space opera cultures should. They create conflict that shapes every interaction. The lesson translates directly into who is allowed to speak, who is silenced, who benefits from the system, and who just survives it. Your galaxy should have rules, and those rules should hurt someone. Tip number 4, ensemble casts need structural discipline. Space opera loves a really large cast. Crews, councils, rebellions, cells, rival heirs. But too many confuse readers, and they don't know who to focus on. So look at Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's episodic, yes, but a character arc is tightly controlled. Each episode centers a specific emotional dilemma, even when the sci-fi concept is expansive. A craft takeaway. Give every major character a defined worldview, a clear want, a contrasting ideology with at least one other character. Conflict shouldn't just be us versus an empire. It should also be pragmatist versus idealist, loyalist versus reformer, survivor versus revolutionary. And this is where the space opera gets interesting. The 5th tip, technology is a thematic tool. It's not a trivia contest. You don't need to explain how faster than light travel works. You don't need to know what it would cost. In The Vanished Birds, time dilation and interstellar travel aren't just cool mechanics, they shape relationships, grief, and the experience of loss across decades. Technology becomes emotional separation, power imbalance, exploitation. So ask yourself, what does your tech allow? What does it prevent? Who controls it? And who suffers from it? That's where the depth lives. Tip number 6, don't forget the wonder. Space opera is allowed to be big and awe-filling. In Dune Part 2, scale is overwhelming with deserts and armies and prophecies. But we get moments of quiet awe, sandworms, ritual, and destiny. that give it emotional grounding. Wonder works best when it contrasts with danger, it complicates belief, it tempts the protagonist. If your world feels purely grimdark, you're missing one of the genre's pleasures, which is cosmic possibility. There are some common space opera tropes, including a crumbling empire, a reluctant heir, a morally gray captain, a rebel cell, an ancient alien artifact. Could it be ancient aliens? Maybe. A found family, starship crew. Think of Firefly. Political marriage as an alliance, interstellar war. These tropes are not cliches; they're promises. The key is asking, how does this trope pressure my protagonist emotionally? If your rebel leader doesn't fear becoming what they hate, dig deeper. If your empire isn't seductive in some way, it might feel flat. Structural models that work well in space opera. Most space operas fall into a couple different narrative patterns. One of them is the political spiral. Each choice destabilizes the system further and the stakes escalate outward. Another is a moral awakening, with the protagonist shifting allegiance or worldview while the stakes escalate inward. Another is an expanding revelation. Ancient truth or hidden systems reshape the universe. You can choose the spine early, and it keeps the galaxy from drifting too far. Big mistakes to avoid. If your plot summary sounds like, then there's a battle, then there's a betrayal, then there's a twist, you're focusing on events. But space opera is not about event density. It's about emotional inevitability and emotional growth. When the planet falls, the reader should feel grief or satisfaction or horror or hope. They shouldn't just feel cool explosion, because then that means you haven't developed the character arcs. A couple final thoughts on why space opera matters. Space opera is called opera for a reason. It's grand, emotional, theatrical, intense, sweeping, but the music works because every aria is rooted in the character's desire. It's personal. Yes, build the galaxy, but build the heart first. Readers will forgive a hand-wavy warp drive, but they will not forgive emotional emptiness in a story that promises to change the stars. Be sure to like and subscribe. This is freelance fiction editor Miranda wishing you happy writing.